Bank of America's chief investment strategy wrote in March that the asset performance in 2026, in his words, is more ominously close to the price action we've seen in mid-2007, 2008. That is not a random voice. This is the head of strategy at one of the largest banks in the world, comparing this market we're sitting in to the 12 months before we've seen the absolute worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. Now, I went back and looked at the data from 2007, 2008, and I want to show you 5 things specifically that are structurally different that we're seeing, and 2 things that are genuinely close, not enough and really not emotion, but let's go ahead and get into the numbers. Before I can show you what is and is not similar, I need to explain what actually happened in 2008, because most people know that it was really bad, but a lot of people do not understand exactly why. Now, the crisis was not primarily about the housing prices falling. Housing pricing has fallen before. It did not trigger a global financial crisis. What made 2008 so different was the transmission mechanic, the way falling housing prices connected to the banking system that connected and froze every credit market in the world simultaneously. Now, here's the very specific chain of events. Banks issued mortgages to borrowers that couldn't afford them. Bad on the banking institution, should have never happened. That was the subprime crisis as we know it. These mortgages were then bundled together to mortgage-backed securities, sold to financial institutions globally as AAA rated assets. When homeowners started defaulting, because of course they shouldn't have got these mortgages in the first place, those securities collapsed in value in its entirety. The banks holding them became insolvent or near insolvent overnight because of all these securities they were holding. Credit markets froze because no institution trusted another institution's balance sheet without knowing exactly what they were holding. Lehman Brothers filed for bankruptcy in September of 2008, right in the middle of the crisis, and the global financial system came within days of a complete collapse. The S&P 500 during that time fell 56.8% from peak to trough, which is kind of crazy. And that's what 2008 really was, keeping that mechanics in mind as I walk you through 2006. Now, there are 5 things that are structurally different that we're seeing, and a lot of people that compare 2007, 2008 to what we're seeing today might be kind of misplaced. Number 1, the banking system is structurally different. In 2007, the major US banks leveraged at ratios, but really buffered nothing for losses. Now, after this, there are requirements forcing every major bank to hold a significantly more equity against assets. That's the reason why when you do a mortgage or even when you do like a home equity, you're not seeing 100, 110, 120% lending versus that or loan to value. And you need a leverage ratio, which mandates a minimum core capital against all exposures. Today, banks, financial institutions, credit unions are holding a lot more cash to cover this, more equity, more and really fewer off-balance sheet instruments than they did in 2007. This is what turned the housing market losses into that global credit freeze because no one knew exactly what was going on. Now, the second one, corporate earnings. In 2007, the S&P was trading at a very elevated and leveraged position. Earning growth was heavily concentrated in the financial sector, so all of these banks were making a ton of money by writing all of these bad loans. Profits then absolutely evaporated when that crisis hit, and of course, fee-driven institutions were almost looking at the same mortgage scrutiny. In 2026, the S&P 500 EPS growing is really estimated at a 25% growth for the full year. That is a big concentration in technology and AI companies that are generating real revenue from real products. Nvidia just reported revenue of $44 billion. Alphabet cloud revenue has grown 28% over year. These are cash earnings. These are companies that are actually making money. Third one, the debt structure is completely different, and this is the one that gets the most attention when we think back to 2008. Debt was a weapon. It was treated entirely different, and a lot of it was hidden in obscurity with securities and really interconnected with every global financial market that there is. When it moved, everything moved at once. There was no circuit breaker. There was no stop. In 2026, household debt, the problem still exists that we're seeing. Credit card balances are elevated. Auto loans right now are on the rise for defaulting, but these are a lot shorter term, and it is very, very transparent and more observable for financial institutions. Auto loans are going 5 to 7 years, not 30 years like we've seen with traditional mortgages. The losses do not cascade to mortgage-backed securities and to every bank simultaneously because they are not intermingled in everything they're doing. The debt in 2026 is a handcuff. It is limiting the consumer spending and creates drag. It is not a weapon by any means. That is carved out and really pointed at the banking system itself. Now, number 4, no subprime housing time bomb. This is the crazy one. Yes, housing pricing today are elevated and a lot higher than they were in 2006. That is a concern, but the comparison is not really the price levels. It is who owns the debt and how the debt is structured. In 2006, subprime mortgages were issued with no verification of income. Working in the financial institution, that is absolutely crazy. Adjustable rates really set to unaffordable levels. And when the zero equity cushion really bubbled and it burst in its entirety, most homeowners in 2026, however, are locked into 30-year fixed rates, 3 to 4%. If you did any refinance through 2020, 2021, they are not facing rate resets and, of course, not having variable mortgages. This is a very different position when you look at a significant equity because of price appreciation in the housing market. The prices are really correlated in 2026, are painful when people are buying and selling. It would not produce the same banking cascade that we've seen, and mortgage security is completely different, and the structure itself is fundamentally different when it comes to financial institutions. And number 5, there is no unknown systematic risk hiding in plain sight. This again is a huge thing. In 2007, the risk was invisible to most investors because they didn't know exactly what was in those mortgage-backed securities. The AAA rating didn't understand what they contained in the entirety, including people that didn't qualify for those mortgages. Nobody understood exactly how interconnected or really exposed until they start unwinding exactly what happened. In 2026, the risks are viable and widely discussed. When you look at AI, there are bubble concerns. Private credit market is a little bit stressed. That CAPE ratio of 40, BOA warning about extreme speculation in the marketplace, and everybody right now is worried about a crash is structurally different than 2007 because 2007, nobody's seen it coming at all. Markets that are priced in knowing the risk, there are not hidden risks in the market as it's sitting right now. With all 5 structural differences laid out, here are 2 things I'm genuinely watching and you should be watching too. The first one being the valuation is genuinely parallel. When we start looking at the CAPE ratio of 2008, it was around 27. As it sits today, it's around 41. So it is a little bit higher elevated. Now that elevation doesn't cause anything to crash by itself, but it does compress the margin of safety when we start looking at a higher ratio and really the difference between the current price and the fair value that we're seeing in the marketplace. That is what BOA is talking about. The price action comparison is specifically looking at the surface level similarities between momentum driven and really AI, the data centers, everything we're seeing with the concentration rally of 2025 and 26. And of course, drawing the line between the financial sectors that we've seen in 2006 and 2007, both fearing the concentration growth in the leadership in a single sector with a very high elevated evaluation and investor complacency that really rhymes that same pattern that we seen back then. Then of course, concern number 2, private credit in 2026 is unknown. This is one area that does rhyme with 2008. That is the private credit and getting into the private credit market. It is almost $2 trillion of private equity and private lending sitting outside of the regulated banking system with a lot less transparency, which worries me being in the financial institution. Longer duration, harder to price assets in there. In 2008, it was mortgage-backed securities that no one fully understood exactly what they were buying. In 2026, it is private equity. Now, this vehicle carries very similar characteristics, less liquidity, harder to mark and really know the value of, held by institutions whose interconnectedness or buying from each other might be a lot less visible. This doesn't mean private equity is going to be a 2008 style time bomb that we've seen. It does mean this is something that we learned in 2008, that we shouldn't hide any of the systematic risks, applied directly and watching the news and knowing it carefully. So after all of that, guys, the actual portfolio that we have, there are 5 differences. There are 2 concerns. This market is not 2008 by any means. That specific mechanism that made that 2008 catastrophe, over-leveraged banks, a lot of interconnected, and of course, not knowing exactly what's on the balance sheet, does not exist as it sits today. Significant market correction from current valuations is definitely possible. A 10-20% correction, we could definitely see giving and bringing that CAPE ratio down under that 41 in a systematic financial crisis, and really is not currently viable in the banking system itself. So what exactly does this mean for your portfolio? We're building SPMO in my portfolio, carries 30% of the momentum crash risk. Always a volatility concern when we look at that, not a systematic risk. QQQM at 20%, of course, carries that concentration risk and valuation risk. It is a real headwind, but of course, the expected returns over an extended amount of time could definitely be there. It is not a banking crisis by any means. The VOO is the broadest exposure to the US economy, which has grown through every financial crisis that we've seen for the last 125 years. We covered that data on Friday. The structure of the portfolio is not built, and it is not 2008 by any means, guys. It is built through compounding, through normal market volatility, and really the next to survive without those permanent losses where you're selling out of a portfolio can be absolutely devastating. The one sentence version: in 2008, debt was the weapon. In 2026, debt is the handcuffs. It is a very different problem that we're facing today, different severity, even different portfolio responses. The 5 structural differences are very, very real. The 2 concerns are real as well, and knowing the difference between the market that we had in 2008 and what we're seeing right now in 2026, it is an entirely different structure. So guys, drop a comment down below. Does it feel like it's the same market in 2008 if you're around at that time personally? After watching this, are you thinking something has changed, or is everything really starting to stay the same? I want to know whether the data moves you, what your gut is telling you. Is it something different? I read every single comment and I will reply to all of them, giving you very, very clear framework of the portfolio and what we're discussing, and I'll see you tomorrow.